In the biggest, coziest oak tree in Whisperwood Forest, where the leaves always whispered secrets, lived a tiny owl named Allie. Allie was the fluffiest little owl we could ever hope to meet. With soft gray feathers and two enormous golden eyes that shone like marbles. He had a very kind heart, but he also had a secret. A secret that made him feel very annoyed. You see, Allie was afraid of the dark. This was a very big problem because everyone knows that owls are nocturnal. They wake up when the sun goes to bed, while his mama, papa, and brother would stretch their wings and give happy, sleepy hoots as the sky turned to velvet. Ollie would just shiver in his nest. The dark is too big and too quiet. He would whisper to his mother, pulling a blanket of downy feathers over his head. It's full of strange, swooping shadows and creepy, crawly noises. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with streaks of orange and purple, Ollie's papa landed beside him on a sturdy branch. "It's time, Ollie," he said, his voice warm and proud. "It's time for your first flying lesson. You're going to learn to soar and hunt under the moonlight." Ollie's stomach did a somersault. Fly in the dark. The very thought made his feathers feel prickly, but he saw the hope in his papa's eyes and didn't want to let him down. With a gulp that felt like he'd swallowed a whole acorn, he climbed to the edge of the nest. He took a deep breath, spread his tiny wings, and jumped. He flapped and he fluttered, but he was so busy being scared of the shadows below that he forgot to look where he was going. Thump! He landed right in the middle of a soft, prickly blackberry bush. "Oof!" he mumbled. He wasn't hurt, but when he untangled himself and looked around, his heart sank. He was lost. The forest was now a deep, dark sea of shadows, and his family's tall, familiar tree was nowhere to be seen. A big, wobbly tear rolled down his cheek. This was exactly what he was afraid of. Just then, through his own sniffles, he heard another sound, a tiny, pitiful sound. Sniffle, sob, hello. Allie called out, his voice small in the vast dark. "Who's there?" a little voice replied. "It's only me, Pip. I'm a firefly. I've lost my light, and now I can't find my way back to my family. I'm all alone, and I'm scared." Suddenly, Allie forgot about being scared himself. Someone else was small and lost and frightened, and they needed help. He hopped closer. In the faint starlight, he could see a tiny bug sitting on a leaf, looking utterly miserable. "Don't you worry, Pip," said Ollie, puffing out his chest just a little. "My eyes are made for seeing in the dark. I'll help you find your way." For the first time, Allie really looked. He wasn't just seeing scary blackness. He was using his special owl vision, and the world was painted in soft shades of silver and gray. He could see everything clearly. "Follow me," he said bravely, as they hopped and fluttered along. Pip asked, "What's it like to see in the dark?" "Well," said Ollie, "it's not scary at all. Look, that big, spooky shadow over there is just a friendly old log wearing a cap of mushrooms. And that rustling noise isn't a monster, it's just Mrs. Badger snuffling for her bedtime berries." He pointed with his wing. "And listen, that's not a ghostly groan. That's the wind, singing a lullaby to the trees, making them sway and dance." Pip stopped sniffling. "Really? It sounds rather nice when you describe it like that." Allie realized something wonderful. His heart wasn't pounding with fear anymore. It was swelling with pride. Because he was being a brave guide for his new friend. Suddenly, a familiar sound echoed through the trees. "Hoo! Hoo! That's my papa!" Allie cheered, hooting back as loud as he could. The sound of strong wings filled the air, and Papa Owl landed right beside them, his face full of worry and relief. "Allie, we've been searching everywhere!" Papa Owl said, nuzzling him with his beak. "And who is this little friend?" The sun had dipped below the hills, and the forest was dark. Very dark. Little Owl sat on a tree branch, watching the last bit of daylight disappear. He was all alone. His papa was out hunting, and Mama Owl was tucked away in their nest with her little sister, who had sprained her wing and couldn't fly. Little Owl wanted to go help his mama, but he was too scared of the dark. So so he just sat there shivering until he heard a small voice. "Are you lost?" Little Owl looked down and saw a tiny firefly with a tear on its face. "I'm trying to get home, but it's so dark," the firefly said, its voice shaking. "I can't see a thing." Little Owl felt a pang of sympathy. He knew exactly how that felt, but the thought of flying in the dark made him feel sick with fear. So he just sat there, flapping his wings uselessly. "Well, that's no good," the firefly said. "Let me show you the way." And with that, the firefly zipped off into this. Little Owl hesitated, then took a deep breath and started to fly. After a while, he heard a familiar hoot. He called out, "Who's that?" "It's me," came the reply. "Allie, is that you?" Little Owl recognized the voice. "It was Pip, the baby firefly from earlier." I was helping him get home because I could see the way. Just then, a tiny, sputtering light flickered on Pip's bottom. Blink, blink, it glowed, then shone as bright, tiny stars. "You found your light?" Allie exclaimed. "I think I was just to let it shine," said Pip, his voice now happy and bright. "Thank you for helping me be brave, Ollie." And with a cheerful zip, Pip zipped off into the night, a tiny beacon heading home. Papa Owl looked down at Ollie, his eyes shining with more than just moonlight. "You were very brave tonight, little one." Ollie hopped onto his papa's soft back for a ride home. As they flew up, up, up above the treetops, Ollie looked down. The forest wasn't a scary, dark place anymore. It was a beautiful, sleeping world. The moon was a friendly, glowing face. The stars were 1,000 tiny fireflies cheering him on. The wind's lullaby was the most beautiful music he ever heard. He wasn't afraid of the dark. Not one little bit. He was its friend. And from that night on, whenever the sun dipped below the hills, a little owl would whoop the happiest, proudest hoot of all, ready to explore the wonders of his starlit world.